Hey, what's
There we
good,
are.
bro?
What
How's
up?
it going, brother?
We're doing good. Thank you. Thanks for joining us on this call, man. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude, we came across your profile and we do this thing every month where we like to shout out an artist who has under 1,000 followers, but who has like that potential of just growing. And we immediately saw you were right under that cap. So we're like, yo, we have to reach out to this guy. And
Well, thank you very much.
yeah. So
I appreciate it.
yeah, no worries. So I guess just the point of this thing is just to kind of get to know you a bit. We'll be cutting up the video and then sending that out to our followers just to give you a little extra exposure. We think you
Awesome.
deserve it. So yeah, we'll just ask you a couple questions, just getting to know you. So I guess first things first, like where are you from, and how long have you been rapping for?
Yeah, so I grew up in Vancouver. That's where I currently live. I live in downtown Vancouver. I'm 28. I've been rapping since I was 16. So, I mean, about 12 years. I started putting music out when I was like 18.
Okay.
I've made music for like 6 years or so and was doing my thing, but I felt like I needed a vehicle to be able to like make all these things happen. I went on a tour with Evil Ebenezer and sort of was exposed to a lifestyle that wasn't the dream that I wanted for myself as an artist. Even though he was doing his thing and stuff, I just sort of this wasn't quite what I imagined when I was thinking about tours and that kind of stuff when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that the only way to kind of uh, bypass, there's really only two options as an artist. You can either do the long-term touring thing like somebody like Snacker Mercules did, where you go on a ton of small tours that you build up that fan base long and
Yep.
organically. And then you can do what Merck did as well, where you match that with doing various things that are focused on online attention and stuff. But the truth is, it's like you either go that route or you have the opportunity to try to hack the internet and focus almost strictly more on things like music videos and actually just putting out content and building up the fan base and the buzz large enough so that way when that is big enough, you just don't tour at all. And then when you're big enough, you're playing real tours. So like
Mm-hmm.
in terms of
Right.
locally, Easy Mac is doing that route more so, who's a close friend of mine. And I've seen him go from, not earning income around the time that I started insurance 5, 6 years ago when I put music aside to now where he's making, around $300,000 a year from streaming. And I've just, it's been eye opening to me that like, you can build up a strong fan base and do all of that stuff even without any of the shows. And that's why, ironically, when people have brought up, it's COVID right now, it's kind of a hard time for you to build up because you can't play shows and this and that. And my response is actually, to be honest, I made this plan of action, which I'll get into hopefully a little bit later on in this interview, a year before COVID even hit, not even having COVID in mind, because I already believe that shows are more of a monetization tool today in 2021 than a means and a tool for you to grow your actual fan base.
Mm-hmm. Right. So
Just out of curiosity, you're talking about like how when you were touring, it wasn't like really your vibe, or like why was that?
It's not that touring is not my vibe. Like I love touring. In fact, it's just that, to be honest with you, like I want to have. I mean, things have changed obviously as time has grown on. Actually, and now being in 2021, it's more than ever. I'm more clear that I actually just aspire to have a strong niche following, and if it grows into something more than that, then fantastic. But growing up, being I'm 28 now. I'm not 18 or 20. I didn't grow up in the SoundCloud era. That was something that we've grown up and grown to adapt to over the time. Back
mm-hmm.
in the day when it was all about being signed, before the internet was where independent artists lives, like pre 2009 kind of thing, like you wanted to be as big as humanly possible. And if you didn't believe that you could have been an artist that could be one of the greatest ever, then what are you even doing on the microphone? Now
Yeah.
it's 2021, and now everybody's like, it's all good. I'm happy to even just be able to make enough for me to be able to pay to be able to do this for a living and just do what I
Yeah.
love. And I'm happy to have a small niche following. And you can be anywhere in between. But being on tour the way that I was, to answer your question, made it clear to me that like I want to be on tour with like a strong following where I'm not having a hard time being able to afford to be on the tour and to be able to have a strong interaction, touching fans with my fans and stuff, not at the stage where I'm touring with people that don't have crowds that I feel are of the size that are going to benefit my brand, and it's not providing me with the experience that I dreamed of. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it needs to be one or the other.
So is it almost like, if I understand clearly, it's like before, let's say, internet age, it's like you're going on tour to build up your fan base, and that kind of like builds itself up slowly, versus nowadays we could go out, put your stuff online, build up your fan base to like 10x than what you could have done trying to do those shows like bit by bit, right? And then once you have that like fan base, it's like a lot more of a show when you're actually touring.
Exactly that. I mean, this is it's a good and bad example, because it's really good in the sense that this person did exactly what we're discussing. It's a terrible example in the sense that he's one of the biggest pop stars in the world. But the Weeknd, it's the same thing. It's just the difference is that the Weeknd did it through the internet, and also like having a street team in Toronto and all that kind of stuff. Because that was like 2008, 2009 when he started buzzing locally before we started seeing him, It was just different, but that's the concept. Yes, what you described is exactly my thought process.
Cool. So I have a question for you. What's up with the elephants? Elephants never forget. I see it everywhere, man.
Yeah, for sure. So a couple things. First of all, I just, I remember everything that anyone's ever said to me, positive or negatively, about my music. It's like, I don't actually have a very good memory. I smoke a lot, and I don't have a very good short-term memory. I find I'm in 100% commission sales, and like, it'll happen all the time, honestly, where I'll be presenting to somebody and I'll actually completely forget what I was saying, but I'm just like good enough at communicating that like, I'll figure out something else to say, but I'll literally be like, fuck, what was I going to say? But my long-term memory, when it comes down to like, I was 16 and this person told me that I would never be an artist, or like this person, like I remember a comment somebody posted when I posted this picture in 2012 when I was like, anyway, lots of stuff like that. And then also the same thing applies in a positive direction, like I'm sure I'll remember this interview for the rest of my life. And it's like, because I remember all that kind of stuff, positive or negative, on any scale. And that's why the elephant thing sort of started. But to go further with it, as far as like explaining it in regards to the brand, I just believe that elephants are good for, or animals in general are good for branding. I watched, like I said, Easy's a good friend of mine, and I watched him take his vision from something that I, as his friend, didn't even fully understand or necessarily see the potential for, and he very fully brought it into fruition in reality, and like is living a great lifestyle and has a strong fan base now because of it. And I've seen the way that they've interacted with his monkey character, and I've also been watching many other brands because of this. And animals are just really a good tool for that, because people relate to it and stuff, and it's an easy thing. And when you're dealing with creating a logo, what the things that you realize is that like most brands have a letter, like a lot of people do, like Mercury's has the M, a lot of people have a letter. And if you're an artist, it's a very common thing that it's related to lettering, whether that's your logo, or your logo often might not be your actual letter. It might just be your actual rap name, moniker in an actual word mark, as opposed to a big brand that would have an icon and a word mark together working as a complete logo. You recognize the word mark on its own, you recognize the icon on its own, you recognize them together. All of them are the same, because you just know that that's Nike. You can see it with a check with the Nike below it. You can see the Nike on its own, or the check on its own. And so it was important to me to create a word mark that I felt was recognizable, that would speak to the brand, and an icon that was recognizable that would speak to the brand, and then have them work together. And animals just seemed like an appropriate subject for me to sort of choose an elephant.
Yeah, that's amazing that you bring that up. It sounds like you've really had an in-depth thought process on your whole branding, which is then again, nowadays, right, when you go to trying to create that fan base online, it's the major key that you need is your branding. Like if you don't have it, like you may be a really good rapper, but I mean,
I actually want to say one other thing on that as well, because somebody mentioned this to me about a month ago. I was meeting with a manager, and he was saying to me, that as a white rapper, you really have to have a really strong brand. And most of the white rappers today, unless you're Jack Harlow and you got signed to DJ Drama in Atlanta, you know what I mean? It's like most of the time, as a white rapper, you really have to lean into like being a white rapper. You know what I mean? And not because when you try to like come across as hard or cool or something that you're not, it's just like very cringe and unworthy of paying attention to, you know? So I just decided along the way that I wanted to, when I was younger, I kind of ran away from it more. I remember not, and I'm older and more comfortable with who I am now. And it's like, I'm a white Jewish kid that grew up in Vancouver, Canada, and stopped rapping for 5 years to become a regional sales manager selling life insurance to white people in small town Canada, making commission sales. And then I gave up my sales team, making $200,000 a year, having 25 people below me running an office, for me to go back to just being a low-level salesperson so I could pursue trying to be a rapper at 28 years old. And so I'm like, you could run away from that because it's like, you could spin that wrong, or actually that's a great story. And that is my story, you know?
Yeah, man. And I feel like if you tried to hide that, you would almost be back at square one in a sense, you know?
Totally. Completely. I agree completely.
Yeah. So another thing, it said like, just, you're like white Jewish guy with a lisp rapping. But in a lot of your songs, I don't really notice a lisp. Like, do you just not have a lisp when you rap, or?
First of all, I appreciate that. No, well, it certainly has nothing to do with, I'm not even aware of the lisp. So it certainly has nothing to do with the recording process. The biggest thing is just like, I think that it just comes from when I was younger, I used to rap fast a lot. I really like double time rap. And, you know, one of the things that you learn when you're rapping fast and in double time is that the people that do it well and that you can clearly hear, that you hear that chopper sort of effect that you notice when people rap fast, it's because what they're doing is they're coupling what I call hard and soft sounds. So it has to go hard, soft, hard, soft, hard, soft, hard, soft, hard, soft. And you're hearing the hards hit every single time when it's, you know, when people are rapping fast. When you're doing that, it's really important, your choices of words, because if you use words that have lots of S's, if you have a lisp, especially, even normal people, it's hard. But for me, if I have a lisp, you'd really hear it there. So I guess like through the way I used to rap, it just used to be a bigger focus. Interestingly enough that you asked that question though, recently a friend of mine who's an artist as well, brought up with me that he felt like my lisp used to be less noticeable than today. And he was joking with me. He's like, did you just used to like focus more on the lisp or something than now? Like now you don't care. And I actually feel like, it's there, but I don't think that it's there in a bad way. And I feel like I've recently gotten to a level as a vocalist where it's noticeable, but unless you already don't like what you're hearing, because then you're going to hone in on not liking my lisp, especially. If you don't like my shit, you're going to be like, that guy's lisp is whack, you know? But if you like what I'm doing and you like the music and you're a fan of it, then I'm led to believe that the vocals are at a level now where the lisp is not necessarily going to be a deterrent, but might actually be something, if you're a fan of what I'm doing, that makes you go, that's part of what makes it unique. I hate using these kinds of examples the same way I hate using Weeknd as an example, because it's like, he's a pop star. It's like, I don't like using Biggie as an example, because it's like, yeah, like it's Biggie, bro. What are you talking? You're not Biggie. You know, but he had a lisp, you know, and there's plenty of rappers over the years that have been successful that have had them. And if the
creates their own style, right? It just creates their own, I guess, character, if you want to say.
Completely.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so I have an interesting question I want to ask you. If you were to, so you said you started rapping around 16. So if you take yourself now with everything you've learned along this whole journey, what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
If I could tell myself, you know, so I mean, there's two ways you can answer this question. The first way would be you saying something really sort of vague, that can come across as really corny, but actually it's coming from a real place. Like, for example, don't run away from who you are. Use that and then focus that in on your brand and understand that that is going to always be your brand. So it's important that you do that now, because you might as well skip the next 10 years. So that's like the more like vague sort of, everyone's like, know yourself, but if I could give myself one sort of more specific thing, I would say, don't stop, bro. Because the biggest mistake I made, while it's the reason I'm the person I am today, and I wouldn't have been able to approach the branding and all of the business stuff if I hadn't gone through all those steps. The other day I was on SoundCloud, and I'm at the very beginning stages of growing. I dropped my first song under this rebrand after 6 years off, like a month ago. And I have like a very thorough plan of weekly content. And I have a lot of like 35 singles already done, 10 videos already shot that we haven't released yet. And like, I have a lot of stuff like banked, but the reality is that if I look on SoundCloud and I look at the plays, I have like embarrassingly small numbers right now, even for a new artist, because I haven't found any real, I haven't gotten any real attention outside of my own social community that I have yet. I've grown 100 followers on every platform over the first month, but it's nothing like, no one really knew people are seeing it enough that I'm seeing the consumption, because the people that while there might be a few of them in there that become your long-term fans, if you look at it from a very macro perspective, those people are just going to be the ones to be able to help you find those people. They might even be the ones to help you find the people who are going to help you find the people who will going to become the fans. You know what I mean? It's like, those aren't typically the ones that will become the high consumers that are going to listen to your shit 10 times per day. And I know that. So even if they support it, you are seeing shares. I'm seeing much more support than I've ever seen in the past, but it takes time to get to that point of consumption. The reason I'm answering this in your question about any kind of thing you could have told your younger self, because the other day I'm on SoundCloud and I'm looking at my plays and I see that like I've gotten very small, like 500 plays or something in the first month over the course of all the songs total on SoundCloud. It's like very, very, very small. And then I looked at my all time and I was like, I'm at 65,000 plays on SoundCloud, which is also very, very small considering how long I've been making music. But I'm very grateful for anybody that's willing to listen to any song at all. To me, I'm still happy to even have 65,000. I believe it could be 65 billion, but 65,000 is a great start. I'm looking at it though, and I'm looking at the like trajectory of the time, and it shows 2010, and it's like 200 plays. And then I go to 2000, and then you see it go like this, and the high point's 2014 before it stopped, and it's like 12,000 plays in 2014. And don't be wrong, that's still nothing, but it's way more than the 500 that I've gotten last month. And if I hadn't stopped making music, even if it wasn't my focus and I wasn't consistently dropping, if I just didn't stop completely and exit the community completely and stop being online completely, I would have had a stronger starting point now. But the flip side of that is if I had gone through that, I wouldn't be IAMSHY. We wouldn't have this elephant logo. I wouldn't be clear about the vision of how to monetize my brand or where I want to be or what my demographic is. So.
Right. So like you almost like you stumped the growth of that like kind of trajectory, but at the same time, you've kind of set back and maybe came up with a better approach, if I'm not wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But if the 16-year-old self, if I could communicate this to him, then I would have said, keep going and do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Still like lean into who you are and find out those things, but just don't stop, because that's the biggest thing that friends of mine who are successful in the music industry say to me. They're like, you're in regards to the past, they're like, I wonder where you'd be. Like, if you didn't stop, imagine how good your music would be now. You didn't make music for 5 of those years.
Yeah, man, that's one thing too. When we were just like quickly looking through your stuff that you have on SoundCloud and stuff, or on Spotify, I was like, damn, like these recordings are really well done. Like the vocals, the beat, everything is like really well mixed, mastered. Like, do you do that? Do you have a team? Like, what's that process for you?
Well, to answer the question simply, as of right this moment, I don't have a team. We'll come back to this a little later on, but I actually had a meeting last night with an investor, and it appears that I'm going to be securing some funding. So hopefully I'll be able to acquire more people that'll be sort of in.
Oh, Welcome back.
There we go.
Back from our quick commercial break.
Yeah, a little commercial break. I was on my phone, but it died. You know,
it's all good.
I was originally on my phone because I was thinking, I didn't think about this because I'm not on Bluetooth headphones, so I couldn't plug my phone in. But before I started calling, the reason why I was on my phone is because I wanted to take a couple screenshots on my phone to post on my story. But then I saw you guys were recording it, and I was like, well, you don't really need to be on your phone. But anyway, it died. You asked me about the mixing process, and I was explaining about, you asked if I have a team and what goes on with that. And I was saying that, I mean, to answer it simply, I do all the mixing myself, and then I send out for mastering. But I'll touch on that a little bit more. But I also want to say, yesterday, though, I had a meeting with an investor, and it appears, you know, I don't want to speak too soon yet, but it appears that I'm going to be securing some funding, not like a crazy advance or anything, but enough on a kind of a monthly budget for me to be able to consistently put out quality content that's at a higher level than I've been doing on a more consistent basis than I've been doing. And when that happens, it will be more of a conversation for me to figure out who will be my in-house people for various things, but not for mixing. That will continue to be myself. So I actually record here.
Nice.
In my apartment, and I mix on Pro Tools.
Wait. Should I do it too? We all got our mics.
Hear that?
Everyone's got our home mics now, right?
Yeah.
I went to school for audio engineering, music production at Nimbus in 2013. Before the school became, it's still a good school. It's just a very different experience now. Like when we went to school, we got to literally live in. Like I had a friend who didn't pay rent for 6 months, and he literally just stayed at school and then went to the community center to shower. And we were encouraged to be there every night. Like I spent 5-6 nights a week there and got the least amount of sleep I'm sure that I'll ever get in my life that year. And that's not how it is now. Now you can
like
still,
right?
you have to, more rules. You have to sign up. You can't sleep there anymore. There's not like, it's just a very different environment than it used to be. So there's 3 times as many kids as there were when I went. So there's just a lot of competition. But yeah, I mix myself on Pro Tools.
Yeah, man.
Well, I think we could shout that out. That was good stuff.
And I think we could say, I could say on both our behalf that we would love to send you some beats and see maybe we could get a track going or something. That'd be cool too, man.
Definitely, bro.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. I you know, it's funny. Like when I was younger, we talked about that mentality of the way that not even me, like everybody that rapped back in the day, you had to believe that you could like be huge and that you were better than everybody else. And I remember being young and seeing a lot of other artists collaborate with a lot of other local artists, many of which who I always thought were like terrible, because it's not, the local scene's very different today than it was when I started rapping. When I started rapping, me and Mercules were the youngest rappers in the city. Like, I remember we were both 16, and the first rap event that I ever went to was seeing Young Hungry, who worked with Junk a lot, and Mercules battle at a KOTD event. And like at the time, me and Merc were 16, and there was probably less than 100 rappers in the Lower Mainland that were actually actively putting out music. Less than 100. Now there's like 7,000, I swear, if you include all the kids that are just having a mic and just recording in their house, all the way to 100 to 200 who are like real respectable artists that put out fairly quality music, and it's like one of the biggest things that I've sort of changed in my perspective is I'm certainly not out here DMing people to work, but my perspective on like being open-minded to work, and this is directed just in general, like being open-minded to do work with whoever contacts me to do so. You're not going to start being able to charge for verses because you are happy with the fact that you have 100 songs that are good that have no plays. You know what I mean? You got to start somewhere. And so like, and people's community and network is strong. So that's not even in regards to you asking. I just mean, in general, I believe when you're starting out, you should work with other artists, and then when the opportunity to spread the seed is, it's like, and the mentality of, even if you think that they might not be, like, let's say somebody hits you up that you've heard their music and that you don't respect the music, you like them and they've always been respectful and a fan of your stuff, Okay, but you can guarantee that their 1,000 followers on Instagram and 2,500 friends on Facebook are a different 1,000 followers on Instagram and 2,500 friends on Facebook than you have. And if you just kill your verse or your hook very, very, very well to the highest level that you would even on your own personal music,
Boom.
how much does it really matter that the rest of the song's not good? Because at least everyone that hears it is going to be a big fan of your shit now. You know,
100%. If anything, it makes you stand out more. They're gonna be like, "Damn, who's this guy?" You know.
Yeah.
It's just growing your branches, like I'd like to say. You know, like you're just spreading the tree.
Totally.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. I think that pretty much wraps it up for me. Kev, do you have any? Oh, wait. We like to just end it off where you could just kind of plug your stuff. Any new projects that you have up and coming that you'd like to get the viewers on, and maybe they go check it out.
Yeah, well, first of all, follow at IAMSHY TV on all platforms, mainly being Instagram as the main one for updates, but obviously on TikTok and Facebook and Twitter as well. But in terms of upcoming content, basically I drop music every week, every Tuesday or actually Monday at 9 p.m. Pacific time, midnight Tuesday morning, in terms of Eastern time. I drop a new song on all platforms, and then at 9 a.m. every Tuesday morning, I drop a new piece of YouTube content. Now, so far, that's been a lot of music videos. I've put out one vlog. You know, as things continue to change on the business end of me having opportunities and resources, what the content will change. I have a lot of ideas that I'd like to execute on, but in terms of making content that is not me rapping, that's related to me as a brand, but is not like me actually doing necessarily, not me recording or doing anything rap related necessarily. I think that's important. Basically where I'm at right now with it is that I realized from putting out my first piece of content like that, I did a vlog where I did a review, a Popeye's chicken sandwich review.
I actually saw that.
And I feel good about the vlogs. The thing is though, I don't have an identity yet. And I have a podcast that I'm going to be launching that I've been putting a lot of time and effort into like creating, just we haven't actually made the content yet. But similar to the branding stuff, like it takes a lot on the back end, as you sure can imagine, to figure out a podcast properly and give that kind of a space, the proper respect it deserves. But in order to execute on all these things, I need a bit of an identity as a musician first, because if you start doing too much vlog stuff or podcast stuff or YouTube content too early before you're known as an artist, you kind of risk the chance of you being known for something else and that you're a YouTuber that puts out music instead of being an artist that has YouTube videos. And so it's kind of a very fine line that you walk. And so you see, my experience when I go on YouTube is that most of the people that are really being the new school kind of like Gen Z, I'm a YouTuber and I'm an artist, usually they blew up on TikTok or something already. Yeah. So like, yes, they are doing both. And yes, they're not like insanely big as a musician, but they've had enough of a big moment that they're like, that's what they're publicly going to be known for. And then this stuff is like works into that because they've had that big moment yet. And I've watched this with a lot of artists, you know, that have gone from not earning any money or having any identity publicly. And I'm not even talking about like American artists that have songs blow like Ian Dior and in 24K Gold and like not even that. Like I mean like just going from being in the position as far as income from a fan base that I'm in right now, which is not having an income from a fan base, to having a full-time, real long-term career because you had something that went and did decently well for itself. And I think when you've had that moment, you have more opportunities to pivot. And until then, unless you have a lot of money behind you or decent or some money behind you, I'm asking myself, does it make sense for me to invest my money into doing vlog content when it isn't going to be appreciated the way it needs to? And I need to build more brand value as a musician right now. And honestly, I put out the vlog and I put out an acoustic pop song last week. And so far, my experience has been people want to hear me rap. That's just like been my experience so far. And it's like, I don't think that's going to be long-term because I genuinely believe in the like more melodic music more so than anything I've released so far, which I haven't dropped anything that's like, I have a couple songs that I'm really belting it and like my voice has come a long way. And I can't really think of an artist that exists today that I'm like this is what this sounds like. And I only have a couple of songs like that are in that realm. The first thing that I've dropped that's even related to that would be Too Cold, which is what I dropped last week. And I haven't found that the response has been what I thought it would be. And so I think that it takes time to train people. When you start rapping, imagine, you guys already know this, but when you start rapping or you start doing a podcast or whatever it is, and you start telling people, I'm a rapper, or like, I'm a podcast host, they're like, okay, buddy. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, music sucks for a long time. If you put out music for long enough, people will be like, they will actually mentally think of you that way now. They'll think that you are 100%. An artist. They might just think you're a shitty artist, but they think you're an artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so training people to listen to you, wanting to hear like melodic music from you when you've only put out rap. I don't have a strong fan base. I just have a group of supporters yet so far. But my supporters are conditioned to hearing me rap. And also one other thing I want to say about this, back to the whole old school versus new school thinking. Back in the day, it was like you wanted to be as big as possible. So if you made a song that was like influenced by pop or folk music that was very catchy and was very melodic, and you play it for most people, they'd be like, whoa, bro, like you might actually be able to do things. You know what I mean? And then if you show them just a rap song, they're like, okay, Eminem, But today, 2021, because rap is the biggest genre in the world by far now, very counterintuitive to what I would think, you put out rap and people are like, whoa, this is really good. You can rap really well. I like bars and hearing you just rap technically. And then on the other side of it, you put out a pop song or a melodic, and it's like, you definitely have people that support it, but those people that support the rapping don't respond the way that you would assume them to until you've put out more of it.
I agree, man. A lot of it too is, it's like you would think like you put more effort into like some music, and it kind of has this, I don't know, more of a shine to it. And then you hear like these like classic club bangers nowadays that's just like not even words coming out of their mouths, and like that's hitting the top charts. You're like, what the heck is going on here?
Totally. I mean, like, I'm down for both, to be honest. I'm not like a super like it. What I'm saying is that I actually believe, like, I've criticized a lot of artists, Canadian artists, over the years who have put out a lot of very lyrical music in my own belief system of how I feel as a musician, or not even as a musician, as a music fan, how I feel when I hear it. I'm like, do something more musical is how I always kind of, for a long time, would feel. And even people that were close to me have said, like, I feel that you should try doing this or you should try doing that. And now that I've been putting out music for only a month, it's not even enough time for you to have any real data or anything. I get that. But even going through that, I'm like, I see, actually, ironically, the market's changed from when I created my perspective on this whole thing. And it's not the same people it's not that people need to hear. Like, Easy said this to me the other day, and this is very, very true. He said, there's an entire demographic and market of people that came up on rap, that want to hear lyrical rap, but that isn't like old school or boom bappy or like anything reminiscent of that. They want to hear like new modern fire music, but that also still has good rapping on it, and has something quirky about it or whatever, And he said that, and I was like, it's true. And then I think about it, I'm like, well, we were talking about leaning into the white thing and this whole thing on the music. Who's the biggest rapper that's ever come out of Canada outside of Drake and The Weeknd? And it's crazy this is a fact, but it's true. Who is it? Outside of they didn't come from Ontario. I'm not talking about anybody from Ontario, not Tory Lanez.
What's this guy's name? I feel like, is he from Vancouver too?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can't fucking think of it.
BB No Money. It's Baby No Money or BB No Money. And it's like, I'm not talking about like what my favorite music is. I mean, I think BB No Money's music is good. Don't get me wrong. It's not what I listen to, but I respect it. I think he's nailed his brand like on the money. But I looked the other day, the guy did like fucking almost 1 billion streams last year or something.
Holy fuck.
And he's independent. So it's like this guy's making ridiculous money. Don't understand. Like millions of dollars, So
yeah.
Anyway, yeah. I appreciate you guys having me on today.
Hey, no problem, man. I mean, we could talk for days, but we have 2 minutes on the clock on this free Zoom meeting. So we've soaked up all the time we could get. Then again, thank you very much for actually hopping on. We really appreciate it, and we wish you best of luck with all your music coming up, and we'll definitely be supporting you along the way, man.
Awesome. Let's be in touch soon, and hit me with a DM with those beats. Eh?
Yeah, let's do it.
Definitely. All
Have a
right.
good day.
All right. Ciao, my man.
Peace.